Thank you so much for joining me today for this stretch and roll class. My name is Sarah Crush. I am a group fitness instructor and a health coach, and I've been offering these stretch and roll classes every other month this year. So if you like what we do here today, I suggest you go to the website. So my website is bigislandactive.com because I have recorded 2 other classes. The first one of the year was all about a hip focus, so opening up your hips and rolling out areas that can affect our hips and lower back. And then the last one I did was all about neck and shoulders. So the very first one that I did back in January, the hip focus one, I do have a really nice introduction about like why do we stretch and why do we foam roll. So if you're new to that, or if you want to kind of have a background that you can share with your students, check out that first video. So once again, that's bigislandactive.com. Our plan for today, we're going to start with a warm-up, just a pretty gentle warm-up, because we all know that when we're doing stretching or rolling, it's better to have our muscles warmed up before we jump into that. So we will be doing a short warm-up. Then we're going to be grabbing our ball and focusing mostly on our feet with ball rolling. You're going to keep your ball handy because you do have the opportunity when we go over to the foam rolling, if you want to have a targeted foam rolling or a targeted rolling experience, you can grab that ball and get into like smaller parts of those muscles or smaller muscle groups. So I will demonstrate that with at least one of the rolling techniques too. So we do the ball rolling, we'll grab our towel and our bands, then we will go full hip to toes with our foam roller. We will finish with a kind of what we'll consider our cool down stretching sequence. But when we're thinking about the goals for today, number 1 is we want to increase our range of motion, right? That's all what stretching and rolling is all about. Range of motion is unique to each person. So pay attention to how you feel at the beginning of the workout and how you feel at the end of the workout. And if you've ever done a rolling class before, we usually start with one move, kind of just to test, and we'll see how flexible or inflexible am I that day. And that is another goal of rolling and stretching, that we want to decrease the difference between pre-rolling and stretching and post-rolling and stretching, flexibility and mobility. Also, like anything, like any workout, we want to balance the front of our body, the back of our body, the right side and the left side. And then finally, with rolling, the goal of rolling is to reduce that soreness, to break up those knots, those adhesions, and we're going to be doing the rolling after the stretching. So if there's any point during the stretching you're thinking, oh my gosh, my outer thigh, my inner thigh, this or that feels really tight, pay a little bit more attention to that once we get into the rolling. So clear your space. Go ahead and come up to your feet. We are going to get started with our warm-up. We're going to start with that very first test stretch. Simple, easy, forward fold. So I'm just going to roll down my legs, and I'm going to ask you to kind of pause whenever you get to the point where you're like, oh, I feel kind of tight right here. And that's going to be sort of like your threshold number 1. Eventually, try and get down so you can at least touch a fingertip or 2 onto the floor. Slight bend in those knees. Your head is hanging pretty neutral here. This being our test stretch, we're just making mental notes to see, ooh, how does it feel? How do my hips feel, my lower back, my hamstrings, quads, even your feet and your toes? See if you can give yourself a big deep breath. And as you exhale, press down into those knuckles if possible. Sit with that for a second. And then one more time, if you can take a deep breath. And as you exhale, see if you can go down to full palms on the floor. Keep that slight bend in those knees. Let's bend our knees a lot now. Hands can come above the knees. Slowly roll it up. One vertebrae at a time. Shoulders, neck, and back. All right. That was your mental note. That was our first test stretch. We're going to do that at the very end. And so see if we can kind of close the gap, make ourselves have a bigger range of motion and less adhesions in there. Let's get started with our warm-up. Standing here, hips are just hip distance, our feet are hip distance apart. And I just want you to lift your toes, lifting your toes. Spreading those toes as you lift them. Think about keeping the ball of your feet always in contact with the floor. Ball of the foot always in contact with the floor. 2 more lifts here. Take this to a heel lift. Just lift and lower, just a releve that you would be doing in bar class. Balls of those feet always in contact with the floor. Spreading those toes to increase our balance. Let's put that together. Just toe lifts. Heel lift. Ball of the feet always on the floor. Toe lift and heel lift. 2 more like that. Toes and heels. Last time, toes and heels. Big fan up here. Exhale, fold forward. Bend your right knee. Fingertip of the right hand stays on the floor. Left hand comes up. Hold your windmill stretch here, pressing through that hip. Both hands come back down to the floor. Step it into down dog. Your ears are hanging right between those arms, neutral, pressing both heels into the floor. Let's pedal out the feet right and left. Driving the heel into the floor, feeling that stretch going down into the calf and the Achilles. Couple more pedals. Let's come up into a bent leg down dog. Right leg is up in the air, opening that knee and hip out to the side. A little bit more pressure in that right hand to square your shoulders to the mat. Bring that right knee all the way through. You're in a right low lunge. Both hands can be on either side of that foot, pushing that heel back behind you. You can walk your hand up that knee into a high lunge. Hands can come up, pressing that hip flexor forward. Hands back on that knee. Go ahead and step it in. Come to standing, left leg lunges back. Tap center. Let's change this tap to a knee. Lunge, knee comes up. 2 more like that. Step it down, squat here. Tap center. Weights in those heels. Should be able to wiggle all those toes. Let's do a squat with a knee. A little bit of a balancer. Open those toes up. 1 more here. Step it outside lunge. Hand can be on the knee. 1 hand can be down. Both hands can be down. Feel it stretch on that inner thigh. If you want to, you can reverse it. Open up to the side. Look up at that hand. Hand comes back down. Walk it to the front. Toes go out to the side. Bend down into your sumo. Go ahead and roll it up. Shoulders back and down. Sumo presses here for 4, 3, 2. Hold it down on 1. Pulse it up for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Step it in here. Fan it up. Forward fold. Bend that left knee. Left hand stays down, right hand goes high. Windmill to the other side, pushing through that hip. Both hands come down. Step into down dog. Pedaling out those feet right and left and right. Driving those heels into the floor. Come into a bent leg down dog, left leg up this time. Flexing that foot, opening that hip and knee out to the outside. Pressing a little bit more in the left hand, squaring yourself, shoulders to the floor. Knee comes through the front, left low lunge. Pressing that hip back, pressing that foot back, pressing through the heel. Go ahead and walk it up into that high lunge. Balance yourself here. Arms come up. Scott, you want to lift that person in? And go ahead and step it in. Right lunge back. And tap. Changes to a knee. 2 more. Squat it here. Tap center. For 4, 3, 2, squat and knee. Bring that knee up. 2 more. Step outside lunge. Ease yourself down. One hand on that knee, or both hands on the floor. You can reverse it. Hand goes up to the ceiling, looking up at that hand. Hand comes back down. Walk those hands to the center. Toes go out to the side in that sumo. Bend those knees. Go ahead and roll it up. Shoulders back and down. Press it forward if you want. Add a little bit of arm in there. Here's 2. And 1. Sink it down. Just those heel lifts. Right and left. 3 or 4. 3, 2, and 1. Heel toe in. How are we feeling? Is our lower body a little bit more awake than when we started? Okay, let's grab our ball. I'm going to be using a tennis ball today. Starting with that right side. I'm just going to kneel down so that my right knee is forward. This is just setting ourselves up for our next move. But I'm going to take my ball and I'm going to massage the top of my foot. Just rolling the top of the foot from the base of that ankle out to each toe. Now if you're a sandal wearer like me, the tops of your feet don't get any attention and they're always grabbing in flip-flops. So give it some nice pressure here, rolling it out. All right, you can put that ball off to the side. We are going to grab it in just a second here. So our first stretch is we're going to focus on that Achilles. Once again, my right leg is forward. Both hands can come forward. And I'm just going to lean forward into it. So the knee is probably going to go over those toes, but we're supporting ourselves with our hand, keeping this heel planted on the floor the whole time. So you can feel that stretch going up the Achilles into the calf. Just hold it here. Now, whenever we're doing a stretch or any sort of roll, we're kind of aiming for a discomfort level of a 5 to a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10. Go ahead and release and relax that. Come to standing. Same foot, right foot. I'm just going to tuck my toe under and push it forward, pushing forward through that hip flexor. So your pain tolerance, your discomfort tolerance is going to be different than everyone else's. So think of pushing yourself to at least a 5, maybe up to a 7. And always breathing through that stretch. All right, go ahead and shake that out here. Grab your ball again. Ball can stay on the floor. Now, if you want to, you could do this seated. You can do it standing. I like doing it standing because there's a little bit more pressure because I'm using my body weight. If you want to hold on to something, even your foam roller or a chair or the wall, to give yourself a little bit of balance, go for it. I'm going to put the ball underneath my foot. And just like we did on the top of our foot, I'm going to be running it up and down the whole length of the sole of my foot. So from the base of all those toes through the arch, try to hit the outside of the arch, hit the outside of the foot. Now you can lean into it and really press, depending on how much you want to put your body weight into it. Pay attention how this right foot feels. All right. We're going to take this ball and I'm going to put it just forward of my heel. It's kind of like a funky high-heeled shoe. It's not on the heel, but it's just forward of that heel. And then just go ahead and gently press down to kind of awaken that connection point where all those tendons come into our heel. Keep breathing, especially if there's any sort of discomfort. Go ahead and roll it forward a little bit so that it's right in the arch, the highest part of your foot. And think about curling those toes down to the floor and that heel down to the floor. I don't know if you're going to be able to touch it, depending on how much you're pressing down. But think about trying to contact the floor, like making a rainbow shape with your foot over that ball. All right, now you're going to roll it forward and put it right on the ball of your foot, maybe even a little bit further. Spread those toes out like you're going to be grabbing that ball with your toes. And just wrap those toes around all the way around that ball and just hold it here, pressing down. And release and relax. Quick check-in. Do you notice any difference between that right foot and the left foot? All right. See if one feels a little bit more awakened, maybe a little bit less tight, a little lighter, less heavy. We're going to do all that on the other side. So I'm going to go back down into that kneel. This time my left foot is forward, kneeling. Grab your ball and we're massaging the top of our foot. Hit the sides too, from the base of that ankle, out in radiating lines out to each toe here. And then hit that inside area too. Give it another pass, working your way back to that pinky toe or that big toe, whichever way you started. And we can leave that ball off to the side here. Coming into that Achilles stretch. Both hands can be on the floor, leaning in to that stretch. Knee's going to be coming over the toe probably. I'll lift my hand up here so you can see a little bit better. Push that heel into the floor, feeling that stretch from that Achilles. And this is where we can start to feel like, oh, maybe my right side of my body feels a little bit different than the left side of my body. Maybe my right foot is a little bit different than the left foot. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just an awareness here. Okay, go ahead and come up. Same foot, left foot curls back behind. You can hold on to the roller or chair or something for a little bit of balance. Curling those toes under, pressing forward through that hip flexor. Now if you're like me, every once in a while, this might give you a little bit of a cramp in your toes. Give yourself a break and then go back into it. All right, let's grab that ball underneath our foot again. Once again, left foot, full sweeps back and forth along the whole sole of our foot. Think about making those radiating lines from the heel to the pinky toe, the heel to the next toe, working your way to the big toe. Once you've done a pass, now put a little bit more pressure into it. Your feet can put up with a lot, so you can press a little bit harder with our ball here. All right, let's do that base of the heel. So instead of right on the heel, it's right where the base of the heel joins the arch. Press into it, and then go ahead and put a little bit more weight. Think about opening up your toes here. Anytime you open up the toes, you're actually lubricating all of those little spaces in there. Keep breathing. Go ahead and roll it forward into that arch. And put it in the middle part of the arch, the highest part of your arch. And then think about making that rainbow shape. Toes curling down to the mat, heel curling down to the mat. Press into it with that level 5, 6, 7 of discomfort. And then release that. And let's finish with our toes. So I'm rolling that ball all the way forward to the ball of our foot. Think about your toes being claws, like you're going to have to pick this ball up with your toes and throw it at someone. Curl it around. Try to get it all the way around the whole edge of that ball. Grip it here for 4, 3, 2, and 1. You can go ahead and release that. Check back in, right and left. Hopefully they feel balanced here. You can put your ball off to the side. You have an opportunity to use it a little bit later. And you're going to want to grab your band, so whether that's your looped band or your kitchen towel, grab a drink of water if you'd like. And we're going to move on to our bands and come into a seated onto your mat. I'm going to start with my right leg out, in front, left leg bent in, foot into my thigh. I'm just wrapping it around that foot, squaring my hips to try and be aligned, center of my chest with that big toe. And instead of just hunching forward and leaning into it, let's think about bringing our chest back and open, thinking about keeping our ears away from our shoulders, and think about if I touch first, it would be my sternum touching my knee first. Slowly pulling yourself forward, shoulders back, chest lifted. Keep breathing through that. And slowly ease yourself down into what your fullest range of motion is for right now. And notice how keeping your chest lifted and your shoulders back actually enhances that stretch all the way down there in those legs. Go ahead, release and relax. Anytime we're coming out of our stretch, just take your time coming out of it. Now, a couple of creative ways to do this. Keep that foot in your band or wrapped around your towel here. And we're going to bring that foot back behind us like we're in a sort of a modified mermaid. Rotating my shoulder back, and then slowly start lifting that foot up. This stretch works not only your hip flexor, but you're probably feeling it in your quadricep too, so keep that foot flexed. Slowly bring it in, another ½ inch closer to your butt. Now, if this stretch doesn't work for you, or if you're an instructor and you want to do this with other people, you can do this on your side as well. You can lay that bottom foot down, top knee is bent, and just pulling it back behind you. Or if you'd like to join me all the way flat, prone on the floor, full quadricep stretch here. Think about bringing that heel as close to your butt as possible. And when we're laying into the floor, we can use our hip flexor to push into the mat so that stabilizes just stretching that quad. Release and relax that one. I'm going to stick with this right foot here. And I'm going to come all the way down onto my back. So you have a couple of options. I'm starting with my towel or my band around my right leg. Right leg is straight up in the air. Your other leg is where you got a couple of options. You can start with just your knee totally bent. You can walk it out a little bit if you want to, so there's just that slight knee bend and just my heel in contact with the floor. Or you can walk it out so it's more or less straight, just a slight bend in that knee. Just a couple options there. Go ahead and just pull that band into your arch of your foot and bring it a couple inches closer to your upper body. Keep breathing here. Now if you're straightening your leg onto the floor, you're going to get your biggest extension there. Okay, let's bring that back to neutral. Now we're going to work with the inner and outer thigh. So you can just hold on with both hands, or if you want to use a little bit of resistance, stretching isn't just about like flexibility, it could also be an opportunity to build some strength. So what do I mean by resistance? I'm going to take this leg that's straight up in the air, and I'm going to start bringing it over the center of my body. So I'm bringing that right leg towards the left side, but I'm going to hold on to my band with that right hand and sort of pull back as my leg is pulling in and across my body, if that makes sense. So just a little bit of resistance. Now, if you're like me, my IT band, the outer thigh is always really, really tight. So I don't even need a whole lot of resistance to feel this one. But I know that I want to work on this. That's an area of my body that my range of motion can be compromised sometimes. Okay, let's bring this back to neutral. Switching hands, I'm going to grab the band with my left hand because I'm going to bring it out to our outer thigh stretch. So my leg goes out to the side, but I'm pulling back with my other hand So it's not just flopping out there. I'm making it work for it. I'm making it stretch and build strength as I go up. So pull back across your body as that leg is going out away from your body. And think to yourself, what's in need of attention here? How's my inner thigh feeling right now? How is my outer thigh feeling when we did the other stretch? Gently back to our neutral position, and you can go ahead and come out of that. Sitting with both legs out in front, take a little moment here. Feel how that right leg feels. Feel how that left leg feels. Left leg stays out in front. Let's do the left side. Tucking that right foot in, squaring our chest with the middle, our sternum going toward that knee. I like to kind of have an underhand grip here. Exhale, folding forward, keeping my chest lifted, trying to keep my shoulders back and away from those ears. Inhale, as you exhale, see if you can lower yourself another ½ inch. And then slowly come up. Let's come into that mermaid. So tucking that foot back behind me. Establish yourself here. Then you can go ahead and start lifting up. That knee stays in contact with the floor. Press through that hip flexor. So once again, hip flexor, a little bit of the quad. There's 4 muscles in the quads. Part of those muscles are working right here. And once again, if you'd like to try on your side, bottom leg can be straight or they can be stacked knees. Pulling back behind me. Try to keep those knees aligned together. Now if that in any way is not so happy for your knees, go straight to prone. Pressing the hip flexor into the floor. Go ahead and pull that ankle just gently. Pressing the hip flexor into the mat. And release and relax that one. I'm going to keep that band on my left foot. Left foot is straight up in the air. Knee is bent, right knee is bent. Or you can walk it out a little bit so it's just that heel in contact with the floor. Or you can walk it out so it's almost straight, slightly bent. Band is right there in that arch. Gently pulling down as you're slowly pulling it closer to your upper body. Once you reach that fullest range of motion for you right now, go ahead and pause there and just keep breathing. And bring it back to neutral in the center. Let's do that inner and outer thigh. I'm going to go across the center of my body first. So I'm going to hold with my opposite hand. So my foot is going to the right, my arm is pulling back to the left. Now if you don't want to pull back, that's okay. You can just have like your foot in a sling basically. But that resistance is really going to build strength. If you feel really tight in those muscles, that's not the best time to be building strength. It's best to work on that flexibility and that mobility. But once you start increasing the flexibility, then you can work on that resistance. Bringing it back to center. Go ahead and switch hands. My leg is going to go out to the outside. And pulling back. Feeling that stretch on the inner thigh this time. Take a note. How does this side feel? It's pretty similar to the other side. Oftentimes, if someone's outer thighs are really tight, their inner thigh might not be as tight because they work in opposition. Go ahead and bring it back to center. And you can come up to seated. Give yourself a quick shake here. So grab yourself a quick drink of water, and we're going to move on to our foam roller. All right, we're going to start with our hip flexors. We're going to be working our way down. So our hip flexor, I want you to think about where your jean pockets are. So we're not going into the groin. We're thinking about jean pocket. So I like to work on the outside edge of my roller. If you have a big roller like this, Sometimes you're going to want to have your legs hanging off the side. So I'm working with my right jean pocket here. I'm going to go ahead and lay down so that right jean pocket would be on my roller. I'm going to walk my feet out so my feet are kind of straddled. That right arm is down on the mat, left arm is kind of up. So I'm kind of giving myself sort of a kickstand so that I can sort of push into that right hip. Now there's lots of things you can do with foam rolling. You can just stay still. Feeling that pressure there. You can rock side to side. So the roller's not moving, my body is doing the moving here. So from that inner part of that hip flexor to the outer part. And then I want you to settle on that outer part here and then just start rolling frontwards and backwards. We're not rolling very far because that hip flexor is not a huge muscle that has at the surface there. So just think like 2 to 4 inches forward and back. Now move a little bit so that your chest is more facing the floor. So we're just kind of rotating our way through that hip flexor area. And then rotating a little bit more so that I'm more facing, chest facing the floor. And then I'm just going to keep rolling back and forth and rotate my way back out. So my kickstand arm can kind of push, keep myself upright. And then once I get to that outer side, just give it a nice acupressure, hold it there for a beat of 2 or 3. All right. Go ahead and put that down. Now we're going to work the quad. You can do these muscles one at a time. You can work right quad, left quad, but if you do the right side, you should probably do the left side. So I'm going to show you how to do it one at a time. I'm going to be working off the edge of our roller again. So remember our quad is going to be right here. I want you to think about chunking your quad up into 3 sections. We're not going to be rolling over our groin, and we're not going to be rolling over our knees. So kind of 3 regions here. I'm going to start with my roller closest to my knee, so right above my knee. And you can go back into your straddle here with that arm up, or you can bring this knee out to the side, okay? So let me show you. Got a maneuver here so you can see a little bit better. So my knee's out to the side, right above my knee. And this is how you would work just one quad at a time. So I'm working that bottom section of our 3-part section of our quad, just rolling it back and forth. And because your quadriceps have those 4 different muscles, start with just your toes pointing down. And now rotate your toes outward. So I'm rotating my toes to point to the left. Roll back and forth a little bit. Come back to center. Now rotate my toes in and roll back and forth there. And pay attention like, ooh, what part of that quad might be a little bit tender? Once you've got that bottom section done, we are going to work it up to the next section of that quad. So roll it closer towards your hip. Start in the center. Rotate those toes outward to the side. And then rotate those toes inward. Just rolling 2 to 4 inches back and forth here. And then our last section of our quad. All the way forward. Right above that hip flexor, right below our hip flexor, in the center. Then rotate those feet out, toes out. It's amazing how changing your toe position totally activates those muscles in there. Rotating those toes in. And release and relax. Now, you could do both quads at once. You don't have a ton of time. You could just lay right on your roller and do both, all right? We're gonna get around to the other quad before all said and done, okay? So we're going to keep working on this right side, and we're going to go to our inner thigh. So go ahead and put your foam roller so it's going to be perpendicular to your, or sorry, parallel to your body here. I was not a math major. Lay down on your stomach. Right leg is going up and over that roller. All right, kind of like doing a hydrant lift. All right, once again, I'm going to roll so that my roller is closest to that groin area, and just tiny rolls here. My foot is kind of hovering over the floor. Give it a couple rolls, front or side to side. Settle in the center of that area, and then I want you to lift your foot up and then lower your foot. So it's just like a hinge point. The hinge is the roller is staying still. I'm just lifting and lowering. I like to keep my foot flexed because it activates those muscles a little bit more. Okay, let's roll out a little bit. So we're in the middle section of our inner thigh. Once again, just little rolls side to side. Settle in the middle part of the middle section. Again, lift. Oh my goodness, I can feel this one. Lifting that heel up and then lowering it. Breathing through it. Aiming for that 5 to 7. If it's at 8, 9, 10, we got to ease off of it. And last, let's go out to that outer part, the last section. That would be right on the inner part, right above our knee. Little rolls here. And then lifting and lowering that foot. Keep breathing. And release and relax. Whew. We're going to come to a seated position. Still working our right side. We're going to go to our glutes. Go ahead and just sit on your roller. When we're working our right glute, we're going to cross our right leg over. So it's like you're making a figure 4. Sit into that right hip, that right glute, and then just gently roll it forward and backward. Getting the lay of the land of that whole glute there. I'm tipped quite far forward. My knee is pretty close to my roller to begin with. Get to that center point and then go ahead and rock back and forth. So the roller stays still and your glute is your anchor point here. If you ever find a little spot that's like especially tender, instead of avoiding it, linger there for a little bit, hold it for a little bit, and roll over a section that needs a little bit more attention. Those muscle fibers want to be ironed out. Work your way into that inner part of the glute, closer to that middle part of your body, and release and relax. Working the outer thigh. We did inner thigh, so let's balance it out with outer thigh. So I'm still kind of sitting on my roller to begin with. Come into kind of side lying, elbow down. Bottom foot stays, or bottom leg stays straight. Left foot walks over. All right? I'm sitting on my hip right now, but I'm going to roll my roller out so it's below my hip. Hovering here, and start rolling your way gently towards that knee. Now my IT band, this is my nemesis, ladies. This is the one that's really tough for me. And so I'm going to give myself enough time and gentleness to work my way through this. Nothing fancy here with the feet, it's just little rolls. Think about that 5 to 7 of discomfort level. If it's ever more than that, then you just roll off and you ease off. All right, outer thigh is done. Let's do some shin work here. You can do shins one at a time if you want to. Just leaning into that one shin, the other knee down. Now, if you have a really hard roller, and this is like way too insane, this is another time you can grab a ball and roll. I'm gonna go with both of my shins on my soft roller. I'll just show you this real quick. And I'm just rolling to right above my feet and then back. And this actually feels really nice on a soft roller. Now, what am I talking about if, oh my goodness, I only have a hard roller, Sarah, what am I supposed to do? And that's too insane on my shins. You can just grab a ball at any time and literally just roll it on your shin. Sometimes the ball is a point to ease off the tension. Other times the ball is a point to like target it and go even deeper. So if you're a runner or if you have shin splints and this is too painful, think about like easing off with your roller here and rolling with this ball. All right, let's go with our calves then. Seated. You can do one at a time if you'd like to. If you do one at a time, just the knee is bent. You can put your weight into those hands and rolling that calf. If you're pressed for time, you can go ahead and put both calves up there. So I'm going to put both calves up here for now. I'm going to roll all the way out to the base of that Achilles and then rolling it in. Remember what we did with our toes for some of the other moves? You can do the same thing. So rotate your toes to one side, roll it out. Back to center, rotate them the other way. So a quick way to get both in there. My calves always feel like water bottles. So if I find a part of my calf that's particularly tight, instead of ignoring it, maybe babying it, I might take my tennis ball and put it right on wherever that knot, wherever that adhesion, wherever it just felt like it was a water bottle ready to pop. And so this is a way to intensify it. So targeted roll with that ball and just really pressing down. I can even come up on my hands. You can just hold it there, or you can do little tiny rolls. When you're holding that acupressure, it's like you're denying that part of the body some blood, so that when you roll off it, it's like, oh, thank goodness, the blood is rushing back in there, pushing out any sort of sticky stuff that's adhering to those muscles. So feel free to grab a ball anytime if there's a certain muscle that's really, really tight in there, but I just wanted to show that to you really, really quick. So hopefully you got both of those hamstrings. Let's go to our left glute then. So we did our right glute before. I'm going to do my left glute. So remember, whatever glute we're working, we're going to cross it over. So my left butt cheek is going to be what I want to pay attention to here. Left leg is crossed over. And then rolling it to the outer part and down. So starting with my knee pointing closer to the end of my roller. And then I slowly rotate it back. The middle part of your gluteus maximus is, there's a muscle under there that can get really, really tight, and it's underneath those glute muscles. So if you ever have sciatica pain, this is a really great stretch to do to roll this out and even put that ball in that certain area. And then remember, you can just hold still. The ball or the what is this thing? This roller doesn't move, but your body rocks back and forth. All right, let's hit our left outer thigh. So I'm staying on that left hip to begin with. Left leg is on the bottom, right leg steps over. Roll that roller out so it's below that hip. Leg is hovering off the floor, little rolls. That outer thigh is your adductor. So if your inner thigh is pretty happy, your outer thigh might not be because it's trying to overcompensate. Or it's really tight because your inner thigh is doing a lot of the work. So we're trying to balance left and right, balance front and back. Slowly work your way out to closer to your knee. You might notice as you go lower, maybe it's tighter, maybe it's tighter up above. And release and relax. Keeping this roller parallel to our body, let's do inner thigh on the left side then. So laying down flat, my left leg is bent here. Foot is flexed. I'm going to start with my roller closer to my groin area there. Just little rolls. Working in sections, I'm going to roll it out a little bit. So my roller is getting closer to my knee, rolling it out. Oh, we forgot to do our foot. We got to raise our foot and we lower it. So just hinging on our roller here. And then work your way out to that third section closer to the knee. A little bit of rolling first. The rolling kind of activates it, and then when you want to do that acupressure, holding it in a section, middle part of the section, or a section that's a little bit stiff and hurtful, and then you press into it, flexing the foot, lifting it to the ceiling, and lower. And release it, relax. Last one, your quad here. So I'm on my quad on the left side. Knee comes out to the side here. Closest to your knee first, or closest to your hips first. Little rolls. I'm rotating my feet to the outside first, my toes to the outside, and then to the inside. Go to that middle section, little rolls. Toes go to the outside, and toes go to the inside. And last, closest to our hip flexor area, just little rolls. Toes go outside, point to the outside, and toes go to the inside. Then we've come all the way back to our hip flexor. So let's get that left pocket of our jeans right there. My other knee can come out, or you can do that kickstand. My hand is up here so that I can press in to that jeans pocket of that left hip, and just little rolls frontwards and backwards. And rotate your chest a little bit towards the floor, getting to the inner part of the hip flexor, and then press away from the floor to the outer part of the hip flexor. And release and relax. And oh my goodness, what a huge round the world with our roller here. Go ahead and come to a seated position. Give yourself a little bit of a shake here. All right, let's come onto our backs. Quick hug those knees into our chest. Bring both feet down into the floor. Right leg comes up in a figure four. Figure four crossing over that left leg. First of all, just press out on that inner thigh. So pressing my hand into that crease of the knee. And now let's release that. Reach through your figure four, grabbing the back of that thigh, pressing the elbow into that knee. Both feet are flexed. Pull those legs in closer to your chest. That's that resistance, so we're building a little bit of strength as we're stretching here. And release it. Let's switch to the other side. Left leg crosses over. Let's press out on that inner part of the knee first, keeping that ankle anchored into our leg, opening up that hip. Now reach through your figure four, grab behind that leg, press that elbow into the knee, feet are flexed, Pressing out with that knee as you're pulling your legs into your chest. Couple breaths here. And come to one more hug of our knees. Bottoms of our feet come together. Grabbing onto those ankles, come into a butterfly here, pressing those feet together. Shoulders back and down, pressing into your mat. Pressing that chest forward. Now holding onto your ankles or holding on to the outer part of your foot into your arch. Come into your happy baby here. Think about pressing those knees towards the floor. Think about being a happy baby. And if you'd like to, go ahead and slowly start straightening those legs out so you're in a wide V. Hopefully those legs feel a little bit more limber. Slowly bring them back together. Hands behind our thighs. Go ahead and rock to a seated position. Right leg comes out in front. Left leg tucks back behind. So you're in a hurdler stretch here. Inhale up. Exhale, fold forward. Reaching past that foot. Think about bringing your chest towards that knee. Walk your hand up that leg. The front leg bends. Hand goes back down. Press up into a mermaid here. See if you can look behind you and look at the sole of that foot. Come down and to the front, sweeping all the way to the front. And your body comes up. The leg that's tucked back behind you, walk it over the front. Give yourself a hug here, hug that, feel that stretch going down into the glute. Or if you want to, you can twist that into that stretch, pushing that arm into that leg and looking over that left shoulder. Let's finish it on the other side then. Left leg extends. Right leg tucks back behind you. Now if this is ever uncomfortable, don't worry about that. You can just hold it here for now. Otherwise, come into that hurdler stretch. Inhale up. Exhale, fold forward, reaching past those feet. Think about bringing that sternum to your knee. And then walk those hands up that leg again. Bending that front leg. Sweeping all the way up into your mermaid stretch. Take it down, sweep it to the front. Bring your body up. This leg crosses over. Give that leg a hug. They worked hard. They deserve a hug. And if you'd like to, go ahead and put a twist into it, looking over your right side. Last move here. Stay in this tight. Crisscross. Both feet. Hands on both feet. And you're going to lean in to this top leg. Pressing that chest into that top leg. Body comes up. We're going to switch that. Left leg on the bottom, right leg on the bottom, whatever you need to switch it to. Tight crisscross to begin with. Both hands into those feet. Then start bringing it forward, pressing your chest into that top leg. And releasing your arms. So the last thing we want to do is come to a standing position to check back in with that first initial test stretch that we did. So let's come back up. Remember, it was just our good old forward fold. So easing down into it. Seeing what point do I feel any sort of tightness. You can put that slight bend in those knees. Coming down to fingertips. See if you can ease right down into knuckles. Letting that head hang neutral. And how easy is it for you to get into that fuller range of motion? Is it fingertips? Is it knuckles? Can you go all the way into a full palm here? Go ahead and roll it up. That was our final goal with any stretch and roll class, to kind of close the gap. So next time you come into a stretch and roll class, see where your starting point is, see where your ending point is. Hopefully by the end you're more mobile and more flexible. And then the next time you come into a stretch and roll class, you're making progress to close that gap between pre-workout and post-workout flexibility and mobility.